Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. We're tackling Digital Performer today, getting into something nitty-gritty.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to be looking at Chapter 33,
That's right. Import and export.
Import and Export.
The unsexy part of making music.
It's not the thing you think about when you think about making music,
Right.
but it's really important.
Oh, it's critical. I mean, you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't get them out of your head and into a format you can share,
Exactly.
it's kind of a moot point.
It's like having a car that only drives in your driveway. What's the point?
Yeah.
Right. So when we think about importing, I think a lot of people, their minds immediately go to compatibility issues.
Sure.
Like, oh, can I open this file that my friend sent me? Can I get this into my session? What do you say to those people?
Well, I mean, Digital Performer is really good about playing with other programs. So if you've got collaborators who are using, different software like, Autodesk or even like older versions of Performer itself,
Yeah,
you can bring those projects right in.
that's huge because collaboration is such a big part of music these days.
Absolutely.
You're rarely working completely in isolation. So knowing that you could just grab those files and get to work, that's a lifesaver.
For sure. And it's not just about compatibility, it's about efficiency too.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite features in Digital Performer is the ability to import entire audio files with just a drag and drop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the drag and drop is so key. I can't tell you how many times that has saved me, like just grabbing a file from my desktop and dropping it right into the project. It's so much faster than digging through menus and folders.
Absolutely. And it seems like such a small thing, but when you add up all those little time savings,
Oh, it adds up.
it makes a big difference.
Big difference. So we've talked about audio, but what about MIDI? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's a whole other world. MIDI is the language of music. We hear that all the time. But what does that actually mean in the context of Digital Performer?
So what MIDI does is it gives you this incredible flexibility because you can take a musical idea, right? Like let's say you've come up with a killer melody on your keyboard.
Right.
You can take that MIDI data and you can share it with other programs. So if you're collaborating with someone who's using a different DW,
Okay.
you can send them that MIDI file, they can open it up, and they're going to see all those musical ideas, the notes, the timing.
It's like a universal translator for your musical thoughts.
Exactly. And, one area where Digital Performer really excels with MIDI is how it handles REX files.
REX files, those are fun.
Those are fun. They're super useful for loops and beats, but tempo changes can sometimes be a bit of a pain with REX files.
Yeah, I've definitely run into that before, like trying to fit a loop into a project with a different tempo, and it just doesn't quite.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it gets all wonky.
But Digital Performer uses this really clever combination of like time stretching
Oh, okay.
and transient detection.
Interesting.
And make sure those loops stay locked in.
Nice.
Even when you change the tempo, which is huge, right? Because it gives you so much flexibility to experiment without worrying about things going out of sync.
You don't want your music to sound like a broken robot.
Exactly.
We want it to groove.
You want it to feel good.
Yeah. So we've covered REX files, we've covered MIDI, but what about just regular audio files?
Right, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to audio.
Right.
Right?
And we've all been there. We import a track, and it just sounds dot off.
For sure. It could be a million things.
Could be the levels are wrong. Maybe the pitch is a little weird. What's going on there?
Yeah, different sample rates, bit depths, all that fun stuff.
It's like every audio file comes with its own little set of quirks.
Exactly.
And that's where I think Digital Performer really shines with its audio conversion capabilities.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like having a little sound engineer built right into the software.
It really is. I mean, Digital Performer can automatically look at that file you're bringing in, figure out what it needs to sound its best in your project, and just take care of it for you.
No more manually converting files or trying to figure out why something sounds weird.
Exactly.
So you could be importing a drum loop you found on, like an old sample CD,
Sure.
or a super high-quality vocal track from a collaborator, and Digital Performer is going to make sure it plays back perfectly.
Yeah, it's all about that smooth workflow, right? We want to get you from idea to finished product without all the technical headaches.
Absolutely. And speaking of finished products, we got to talk about exporting, because what's the point of making amazing music if you can't share it with the world, right?
Exactly. You want to be able to send it to your collaborators, put it online, maybe even get it mastered for like a proper release.
Right. So how does Digital Performer handle all those different formats that are out there?
So it gives you a ton of options, which is great. Like, if you want to send your musical ideas to somebody else, you can export your project as a standard MIDI file,
Okay.
which pretty much every other music program is going to be able to open.
Mhm.
Or if you want to get really specific and make sure you're preserving all those little details, those edits, those effects, you can use OMF or AAF.
Those are the like industry standard formats, right?
Exactly. Those are going to keep all that track information intact.
Nice.
So you can move your project to another studio, to another DW. It's all going to translate perfectly.
That's huge. You don't want to lose anything in translation.
Exactly. And one of the things that always blows my mind about Digital Performer is its backward compatibility. Like, you can export a project in a format that's compatible with versions as far back as 3.1, which, I don't know, it just goes to show, like, the legacy of this program.
Version 3.1.
Yeah.
That's like going back to the Stone Age of digital audio.
I know, right? But it's still there, and it still works. That's the kind of thing that gives you confidence in a program, you know?
Absolutely. But, for all the love we're giving those older versions, Digital Performer is not stuck in the past.
Not at all.
Those software updates that come out, it's not just bug fixes and little tweaks.
No, they're constantly adding new formats, new features. I mean, it's amazing how much this program has evolved, even just in the past few years.
It's like getting a free studio upgrade every time you hit that update button.
Hey.
So I have a little challenge for our listeners.
Okay, I like this. Hit me.
I want you to go digging through your hard drive. Find the most obscure audio file you can think of. Maybe it's a sound effect you downloaded like a decade ago.
Or like one of those old cassette tapes.
Yes.
Like you digitized
Exactly.
years ago.
And then ask yourself, could Digital Performer handle this?
I have a feeling the answer is probably yes.
It probably is. And that's what's so exciting about it, right? There's so much you can do with this program. So keep experimenting, keep exploring, and who knows what sonic masterpieces you'll create. That's it for our deep dive into Digital Performer, specifically the world of import and export. We'll catch you in the next one.